As he awkwardly bows, several apples falls out of the crate and bounce out of his hands, running past your feet. Sorry, he sets the container down. Is there something I can do? What do you do here? Me? Oh, I'm not anyone important, Fateminder. I never took a particular trade, and I'm not a man of letters. I just help out where I can. He gestures towards the crate behind him. I count the produce for Ermod. He lets me take a few fruits when I'm done. His words are interrupted by a rhythmic clanging of hammers against metal. He turns to look at his source atop the nearby roof, exposing a gap-toothed grin as he speaks. Ah, and of course, the forge-bound always needs fresh water, so I'll pump it for them from time to time. I'm sure Cassandra appreciates that. What do you know about Cassandra? She's incredible. She's no spring chick, but she can split a boulder better than any man in the village. You can tell her apprentices respect her just by the way they look at her. Everyone in the village feels the same way. If she speaks up, we take notice. She's still there? She is intimidating though, and I wanted to give her a suggestion about some stone arrowheads she fashioned, but she looks really angry when I approached her. She was yelling at one of her students, and another was on fire or something, so my timing was poor. There's a lot of love to learn from her. There's lots I'd love to learn from her, but I'm too old to be taken seriously as a candidate. I'm not familiar with South Haven. Tell me about it. I'm not sure what's really all that worthy of note. He scratches his chin, inadvertently smudging it with charcoal. We've got the river and the sea nearby and live by what they bring us on the good seasons. Trade for what we don't have when our luck dries up. If you're bored already, good. I think Kairos' force were bored too and seemed to ignore us. Some recruiters from the chorus came in years past and rounded up some folks who were out in the fields. I think they took Toled's boy and also the Corbett twins, but that was the worst of it. I've heard plenty of stories from elsewhere in the tiers. 3 folks gone, while the tragedy is nothing compared to the suffering seen elsewhere. We are fortunate, no denying that. How did this village end up staffed by Forgebound? Oh, their arrival was the biggest change we've experienced in a long time. It's been maybe 2 years? This guarded entourage came to town and we all thought we were being invaded, but nope, just a bunch of craftsmen booking passage out of the port south of here. When they arrived, they were all ill, with fever and needed to rest. Since old Leonis knocked off, we let the Forgebound use her house. We all assumed it'd be temporary, but either the ship they meant to board sank or they had changed the plans. A span later, the Forgebound were still here and making themselves at home. Then I heard that the villagers here were fascinated by their crafting magic. The youngsters in the village all lined up for lessons, and Kairos be praised, they saw fit to tutor some of them. They've been awfully helpful. Spears and arrowheads for our hunters, plows for the fields, fishhooks for the river, even a hearth or two for those cold nights. They also help keep us safe and stand watch over the town. If I were younger, I'd ask them to train me. Cassandra's almost always at work. She's on the roof of the building behind me. She's a busy woman, but I'm sure she has time for you, Fateminder. Cool. That's what I'm looking for. Let's pick this up. Yeah, we don't need that. Let's take a look here. Nothing of interest. Let's go all the way down. Anything hidden? No, of course not. Don't even know what that is. Old water. Huh. Cool. Word is you've been atop a spire. Can you see Kairos from there? No, I can't. Although, wouldn't that be something? Erasmus. A young man squints at the bottles in front of him. He picks them up, shakes them, and sets them down, dissatisfied after every examination. Was it fennel pollen or rhubarb root? He catches sight of you and stops his search. Hello, traveler. Something I can do for you. What are you looking for? My wife took fever recently, burning temples and an awful rash. She's a tough one, but I wanted to get her some medicine. I know that boiled silverthorn works well, but that's a few rings too many for me. There must be an alternate. Elder bark is what you want. Almost as potent as silverthorn, but a lot more plentiful. You can probably buy it for a song. Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. I'm quite worried about my wife, and these herbs will really help. Is there anything I can help you with? It's the least I can do. Question about town. Of course. Thanks to you, I can spare a moment before getting these herbs back to my wife. What would you like to know? What do you think of the Forgebound? No qualms here. I was a bit nervous having them in town at first. You have to understand, we fared better than most during the conquest. Kyros's war raged on elsewhere, so none of his armies marched through South Haven. But who knew if the Forgebound would attract attention from the Archons or Brotherhood raiders? They proved me wrong. Nobody attacked the village after they arrived. When Cassandra isn't training them, the Forgebound help us out however they can. Can't say I'm a fan of the curfew they enforce, but it's a fair trade for the service. Tell me about this curfew. Cassandra demanded it. I guess the Forgebound dealt with raiders on their journey here and don't ever want to be caught unawares again. It's a hassle, but I'd rather them here, not like I need to be wandering around in the dark anyway. So aside from a few folks, most of us stay indoors come the evening. Cassandra's apprentice then keep an eye out for intruders, after a full day's work too. Theirs is not an easy trade. Do you have any opinions about Cassandra? I've no issues with her. Truth be told, I've never really spoken to her. You can hear her barking orders at her apprentice at all hours of the day. I've never felt comfortable interrupting their sessions, though I know some folks like Captaron help them out from time to time. Perhaps you should ask him. Tell me about Captaron. Captaron's been in South Haven for a long time. Everyone knows him. He's a simple man, but about as good-hearted as they come. My father grew up with him right here. Said he's always been kind. Captaron doesn't have a trade to speak of other than helping others. He'd probably go out to pick herbs for me if I ask him. He likes to stay near the village entrance to direct travelers most of the time. Since he's always assisting folks at the end of Forgebound, he's one of the few that are allowed to wander during the evening curfew. He glances at the Forgebound workers with a knowing smile. Of course, everyone knows he's smitten by their leader. He finds every excuse to be close to the Forgebound, and every excuse to avoid speaking with Cassandra. He's an old man with a child's heart. Okay. Cool. Yasin. You see a tall figure with a patchwork sash of animal pelts slung across her shoulder. The skin on her sunburned face melts with a pair of naturally flushed, freckled cheeks. She speaks energetically to two nearby villagers, animated in her depiction of a recent hunt. I had to crawl real low through the brush. Those critters have eyes like eagles, but are too deaf to hear their own farts. I got close enough to see its nose wriggling in the air. They can actually feel you coming that way. You know, but it was too late. One swift thrust later, it turned into dinner. Hey, Echo, what's up? How you doing? She hears you approaching and spins around, spear held out playfully. Aha! Who goes there? Her laugh is hearty, but ends abruptly as she takes note of your appearance. Apologies, Fatebinder. I had no idea you were visiting us. Forgive the jest. I've been burdened with an overabundance of energy since childhood. One way or another, it comes out. She offers a purposefully awkward curtsy. What can I do for you? Can you tell me about the Forgebound? Fine folks, as far as I'm concerned. Everyone around here is better off with them. Cassandra and her students keep me supplied with fresh spear tips and a arrowhead, so my life's has never been easier. They spend most of their time in training, though. I think that's the real reason they're here, to pass on secrets from master to pupil in a safe place. Cassandra is a hard ass in more ways than one, but her students are better off for it. They certainly make short work of any of our requests. Nails, hooks, blades, whatever you can think of. Only old Lycus didn't take too kindly to their presence, but that's because he's a half-rate smith whose blades are as limp as he is in the sack. Oh god. Anyway, I like them. I'm not too wild about the curfew they've demanded, but Cassandra insists that it's for our safety. I haven't seen any Brotherhood or bandits while out in my hunt, so it's not like we're less safe because of it. With a tooted grin, Yasin offers a friendly wink as you approach. Fine day out, Fatebinder. Anything you need. What do you think of Cassandra? She's a tough nut to crack. She's been pounding steel for so long that she's forgotten how to hang up the hammer and enjoy other pursuits. I first got to know her after we've got to talking about hunting implements. I think she saw something in my enthusiasm for it all, and we've steadily become pals. She's a much different person after she unwinds. Not that there's anything wrong with having a tough exterior. She's a master of napping after all. You've got to maintain appearances. Cassandra's Gravelight tools seem unique. Any chance she'd part with them? Doubt it. All she ever goes on about is chisel, moils, flates, tempers. Who knew there was so much to know about wedges with handles? If you need tools, ask her. I bet she'll make them for you just to show off what she can do. But her tools? Seriously, those are probably the only thing in this world she genuinely loves. Okay, so she won't part with him. Interesting to know. Uh-huh. A mushroom.
Can't do that.
Meat. Alright, let's get up top. Nicodemus. A barrel-chested man surveys the area with a stern expression, eyeing you nonchalantly as you approach. A large horseshoe mustache traces the top of his mouth before racing down to his chin. When he speaks, the bristle nearly masks his lips. His lips, yeah. Well met, Fatebinder. What do you need? Who are you? Nicodemus, Cassandra's second. I've a few seasons under my belt. Unlike these pups in the forge, he gives a sideways glance back towards the work area. I watch over things when Cassandra has better things to do, which is always. What can you tell me about your leader? Tough but fair, Cassandra knows that teaching and napping are both acts of reduction. In the case of teaching, one chips away at ignorance. Some don't like her approach. Such fools are not fit for our guild. Okay. Why are the forge bound here? Ask Cassandra. She gives the order here. No point in me guessing at her meaning. Shit, you're not really helpful, bro. Like you have nothing to say, essentially. Like, pretty much. Finesse when inflicting crits, wits when inflicted miss. Huh. But they're heavy armor. I don't want that. A small group of forge-bound stand in conference around an older, gray-haired woman. Blue tattooed streaks trail down from her hairline, coming rest upon a pair of eyebrows permanently fixed in a severe expression. She grasps a hunk of jasper and strikes it several times with a sharp piece of obsidian. The motion should feel rhythmic as you work the stone, as mundane as breath. Her sinewy biceps contract to control the force from each impact, keeping the jasper remarkably still. Listen to your senses. If the shape in your mind doesn't feel inevitable, then you're wasting your strength and my time. Noticing your approach, she halts her demonstration and waves off her apprentices. We'll continue this later. Fatebinder, I am Cassandra, master of napping. The forge-bound present are in my charge. She grants you a perfunctory nod. I know your time is limited and South Haven too remote for this meeting to be chance. What is it that I can do for you? How'd you end up here in South Haven? A master of napping, it's my duty to build the forges that keep the others occupied. Bronze and iron are the guild's trademark, but stone's the foundation. When Karos' conquest began, my kin followed the army into the tiers and I led the efforts to build up Leighton's Crossing. With our task at the crossing complete, there was naught to do after but return home. I barely made the long march south, and so I decided to head towards the closest port just near here. Manic, thank you so much for that host. Do appreciate it, you're awesome. And planned to catch a boat back home, but the journey here was difficult. Brotherhood bandits ambushed us on the road. Her eyes narrows at the memory and she rubs the left side of her abdomen. They fancied our forge implements and thought them fair payment for use of the road. I refused and we brained them with our hammers. Wow, okay. She cracks her necks with a quick tilt of her head. I cracked a rib or three, and some others in the party were wounded, so resting in South Haven seemed wise. The locals were overly accommodating, and I started wondering if I'd even live through the sea voyage home, so I decided to set up shop and teach here. Our temporary stay became rather permanent. You have hair? I thought all forge-bound shaved their heads. She permits a smirk from the briefest of moments. I've shaved my head for nearly every day of my life. I think I've earned a reprieve. She lightly smacks the back of an apprentice's head as he kneels to work. These idiots don't get that luxury. We have these traditions for a reason. If you waded into a forge fire all day, you'd know better than to grow a mop of wicks out of your head. Okay. Do you know a man named Capteron? Capteron? Oh, for fuck's sake. She rolls her eyes in sudden loss of composure. A lovesick cub, if I've ever seen one. He's helpful with howling and odd jobs, but enough with his endless spinning. pining. Not that he's ever experienced love, as best as I can tell. He's well past fathering age, but probably couldn't find a vagina in a brothel.
Oh my.
Okay. He mostly keeps his affections to himself, thankfully. He's armless and always compliant, if you yell loudly enough. Do you fancy spineless men? Have at him. Ugh, no, it's fine. I thought Jaspos was master of napping. Jaspos? I thought officers of the court would be better informed, Fadebinder. There can be only one master of napping at a time. I'm not a corpse yet, despite the wishes of my apprentices, so the title remains with me. So what rank does Jaspos hold if he's not a master? Why are we even talking about Jaspos? The only title he's fit to wear is Apprentice of Arrogance, a Master of Arrogance. He was a dutiful enough student, but I've heard the boasts he's made to my apprentices in private. He learned quickly, I'll give him that, but he was long way off from attaining any kind of mastery. It takes at least a decade of consistently impressive work before the guild will allow for the title of master to be bandied about. If I dropped dead tomorrow, there are a dozen others more qualified to inherit my title. She lets out a long sigh, her eyes narrowing as her upper lip twitches. What gave you this notion that Jaspos is the master of napping? Jaspos has claimed the title for himself. Motherfucker. She takes a hammer and smashes it against a nearby wall, sending fragments of it flying. The gall of that man. I'd cave his head as an example, were he here. She strikes the wall again for good measure. I have chisels older than him. He's far, far too young for such a rank. He, of course, had potential. I wouldn't instruct anyone who doesn't, but he seeks approval in people rather than in his own craft. Hardly a master's mindset. The guild will act on this. Making a false claim like that is a serious offense to our ways. As soon as I can, I'll pen a missive to my superiors. His arrogance will be disciplined. I'm here to retrieve his napping tools. Jaspos tools? What sort of nonsense is this? He's a rather elaborate tool set that was left at the crossing, correct? I'm here to collect it. What makes you think... Her eyes widen in recognition. Oh, I get it. She grits her teeth and scowls. I have a suspicion we're both being used. The tools in question are mine, given to me by Forge Masters Denya years ago in honor of my semi-centennial with the guild. After we left Lethan's Crossing, I noticed the set was incomplete. Several key hammers and chisels, one of my best loops, all missing. At the time I assumed the fault lay with me. The way to Southhaven wasn't without its trouble, and I assumed I misplaced things during the shuffle. I would never have guessed that Jaspos would steal them from me, from his own master. If my knees were still good for sprinting, I'd chase down that ungrateful rake and pulverize the skeleton one bone at a time. Her rage seems to vanish with a shrug and a smile, and I suppose making tools is what I do best. Not like I can replace what was lost, but those tools were a gift, and not even I can fashion sentimentality out of rock. I'm not sure how exactly I can help you with the situation. What makes these tools so special? Zdenya fashioned them as part of a series of works inspired by some pre-war study into the tidecasters and their ways. She took it upon herself to spend a year working only with the crystals and metals the caster used in their designs. My tools were some of her best pieces that came from that year of experimentation. I try not to make a big deal about having tools inspired by Tearsman magic, but they are the finest I've used. I guess the idea is that some of the Moonlight's energy remains trapped in the business end of the tools. All I know is that with them in hand, I can work faster and with more precision and strength. In truth, I can do just fine with lesser tool. As much as I adore the set Zdenya made for me, nobody can make a handle to fit my hand quite like I do. She picks up a small hammer and twirls it in her hand. But if Jaspos thinks he can claim the rest of my tools and pretend to greatness, that ungrateful wretch is dead to me. If my knees were still good for sprinting... I've read that. I need these tools. She moves in front of a nearby table, shielding the stone implements from view. No, Fatebinder, you have no claim to these unless you mean to challenge Denya herself. She places her hand upon a large hammer attached to her belt. I've told you the truth of the matter, and I'll do so again before Tunon. I'm going to go with speak sincerely. Sincerely. I misunderstood the situation. The tools are rightfully yours. Thank you, Fateminder. She visibly relaxes, as do several of her apprentices who quickly return to their duties. I'm glad we could clear up this misunderstanding, and I'm sorry that one of my own deceived you. As his instructor, I should have spotted the flaw in his scruples. The shame is mine that he was not cleft from our ranks sooner. So wait, this mission will just fail? I guess so. Return to Jaspos. Huh. Yeah, I'm not about to kill her. She's super useful to this community. I'm happy it's an option, but I'm not about to do that. Now we have to go to Phlogiston. 3 days. Ooh. Cheese. Let's get up there.
There. See that?
Huh. Oh, we already know that one. It's fine, we'll sell it, but still.
Can't do that.
Okay.
Can't do that.
Ooh, what's going on there? Scarlet Chorus? Uh-oh. It's not good. I can see it in my head, Fat Oldston, marching out in that inferno, half his body all crispy, but all of him. Ragworth, 4-chorus soldier engaged in animated debate, vociferous in their claims. Stow it, Skinner. The fact that you fantasize about what Captooth can do with her mouth doesn't mean that she'll win the game, just what you desperately want her to. A little testy now, Ragworth. At least Gaptooth is a clever bitch. Why anyone would put rings on Fat Ulston winning is beyond me. We all know the only tenderness you've ever known was when you were passed out cold and a drunk wriggled on top of you. No need to take your frustration out on us. Oh God. Fuck you, Limp Dick. I don't let anyone in my tent unless I want them there. Try it sometime and I'll... She pauses, noting your presence with a jerk of her head. Approach the group. The white-maned warrior spins around, gesturing to the others to stay put. Come closer, chum. The soldiers call out to you in eager tone, twirling his axe energetically as he sizes you up. Well, fuck me, it's the Fateminder. Yeah, Echo, you know it. He plants the pommel of his weapons into the ground and gives the bladed end a kiss. Not today, love. Maybe later. The chorus warrior scans you from head to toe, twirling his axe and puffing up his chest as he looks you over. The boss said, we're only free to kill disfavored, but if you've come here for a fight, I'm sure we can oblige. So what brings you to this shit stain of a village? Who's in charge here? That would be Kraskalia. She's the one always looking like she's having a shittier time than everyone else. Look for the blood chanter on the rooftop north of here. No doubt she's contemplating whether or not our problems can be solved with, oh, I don't know, fire? He rubs a burned scar on his neck. I'm only jesting. I respect her method. I mean, you don't give blades to a lunatic like me and expect diplomatic solutions, so the same goes for her. What's your role in the gang? I'm the fun one. There's joy to be found in Nerat's service after all. He flicks the bloody lump of the edge of his axe. I'm also the gang's hunt master. By that he means he hunts people. Animals too if he's bored, or we bitch about our empty bellies. All very true. I'm also Kalia's second in all but name, which means I have the pleasure of keeping these twits in line. Tell me about your gang. Kalia's the boss, and we're her gang. He gestures to a broad-shouldered woman with disheveled hair. This fair maiden's here is ragwort, sews up split flesh like a proper healer, and manages to turn my catch into half-decent meals. Just keep your distances, unless you want to gag on her stench. Stow it, Skinner. You'd be all over this if you could. She points to a few vials dangling from her belt. Bombs don't smell nice, I won't lie, but they keep wounds from festering. Contusions, well, she took a forge-bound hammer to the skull and survived, though tough as they come. Not as bloodthirsty anymore, but point and yell at someone and she'll take the cue. Great gal. He tips his head towards the wiry man by her side. This cowardly pustule, her mate, Needletoe, master of the art of failed desertion. He runs really fucking fast, I'll give him that, but everyone has their place. He sees to Contusion's needs so that Contusion can see to our needs. He sees to her needs so that she can see to their needs. Love it. Needletoe Sonnen's expression confirms Skinner's description. Do you really need to tell that to everyone you meet? No, but I enjoy it and it makes me feel good. What are you arguing about? Word is the silent archives no longer buried within the burning library. No doubt the censor's pleased, but that's hardly important. What's important is figuring out which of the censor's gangs got to it first. We've all got our rings on different ones. My money's in Gaptooth, but we haven't received any updates yet. It was me. I'm the one that took it out. I'm here for a sage named Phoebe. I can't say I know much about that. Plenty of sages come and go across the edge of my axe. You'll have to ask the boss about that one. He tilts his head and continues to watch you with a smug smile. Tell me about these captured sages. This ash pit isn't much of a village anymore, but old Crassy makes us take the detour through it every time we march out from the burning library. Thought it was a boring diversion until we ran into these sages. His lips part slightly to reveal a grin. Some resisted, thankfully, and I got to play. Those bookworms fight better than you'd expect. He rubs a heavily bruised rib, wincing in pain. Still, touch a blade to their skin and their eyes go wide. It's kind of precious to see. We're keeping the rest alive until we figure out what they're doing here. Learn anything? Oh, plenty, but nothing in the slightest way believable. Press a blade to a disfavored neck and he'll stare at you like he was dropped as a baby. Do the same to a sage and she'll fucking talk for minutes before you realize it's all ballast, a whole spew. Baby dropped. She looks concerned and steps forward, scanning the ground for something. Contusion, not now. Needle nose gently but firmly pulls her back. Nothing to worry about, girl. Skinner shoos the confused woman away with a wave of his hand. They are hilarious. I love them. Anyway, the boss is being careful about this one. She's got her methods. He pats a row of short, sharp-edged knife along his belt, and I've got mine. She'll have need of them eventually. Any plans to release the sages? Fight banner. What would we do that? You're obviously not chummy with those ass-sniffing ironclads. Would you let one of them stroll into Venrian's well and then let her go? For once we agree. She swats away a flying beetle with her dagger, clipping its wings and sending it plummeting. Nothing makes a sage wetter than the idea of recovering knowledge in the library ruins. She may know how to navigate it, or have secrets about the silent archive. So, gang bosses are now okay with wagers on the silent archive. Did I say that? I definitely didn't say that. One of these idiots is going to lose, but nobody's obligated to pay up. We're the Horde. Pride is worth more than rings. He lowers his voice to a nearer whisper. We sometimes just measure that pride in rings. So, do you know who got to the archive? I'm gonna say Gaptooth. Aha! He spins around to taunt his comrade. Hear that? A Fightbinder's word is about as official as it gets. Gaptooth's the victor, so pay up. Pig shit, there's no way you can know that. I'm full of big shit, but this one's came directly from the Fatebinder, not me. Skinner triumphantly runs up his winnings from the other gang members. And now that he's done that, this was only ever going to end one way. Hoping you'd say that, he grabs the battle axe and twirls it in a wide arc. Time to play. Time to play it is. Certainly.
It's a battle!
Certainly, sir.